Welcome back to part 5 of 6 in our UEFA Financial Fair Play series. Have you formed your opinion on FFP yet? In this video, we are trying to decide once and for all if these rules have actually served to help football clubs like those that you support. Did UEFA believe FFP would lead to an economic footballing utopia with amazing results for all clubs? Again, the question arises as to whether or not UEFA really did seek to help all clubs, or whether FFP simply was constructed with hypocrisy at its finest in a quest to polarize the biggest clubs from the others and protect their interests. Europe's top clubs have threatened to break off from UEFA recently due to a rise in competition threatening their monopoly. Without these clubs, UEFA would lose their cash cow, and so it makes sense that cozying up to these elite may have been the rationale behind FFP. With that in mind, FFP would have a better effect on the top clubs. True? Let's discuss. So how could FFP improve the economic capability of clubs in general if its symptoms would have such a distinct effect on clubs of different sizes? How can you expect to boost a club's financial capability whilst restricting their investment power? Arsenal raised an extra £50 million every year from 2006 up until the COVID pandemic. Not only in a new stadium can they sell more tickets, but as an established big club with an attractive London postcode, they have sold lots of premium tickets at higher value. FFP may have encouraged this and Arsenal may have benefited, but it's unlikely a team like Hull could do the same. A far less established club with a smaller fan base in a lower income area. That is far less enticing and accessible to international fans and consumers. Regardless of FFP, some clubs will always be more attractive than the others, but Arsenal wouldn't have quite the same advantage if Hull were able to invest money by way of a benefactor owner, in the same fashion that Chelsea and Man City came to compete with the traditional giants. Clearly therefore, it was always obvious to those in UEFA with knowledge of the industry that these symptoms would take effect, and that therefore FFP would impact very differently on different clubs. Clubs like Barcelona and Real Madrid earn about £20 million a year in membership fees. These fees are not included in the break-even model by UEFA, as they decided it is different to a one-off payment from an owner. Conveniently, big clubs like these will continue to make money from membership fees, and could possibly get away with increasing that fee. A club like Eibar, who are considered to be the smallest ever to compete in Spain's top division, are already punching above their weight. Does it benefit them financially that a club of their stature cannot receive a $20 million investment from a benefactor owner, but in essence Barcelona can? Why can Eibar get $20 million from an oligarch if Barca can get $20 million from their members? Certain Premier League clubs are leaving the rest of the country in their wake by signing massive kit sponsorship deals. Everton are a mid-table club who have been struggling in the last couple of seasons, and they have a kit deal worth $9.83 million a year, still the 8th best in England. Man United may temporarily be performing like a mid-table club that have recently improved a lot, but they're earning $128 million a year through their deal, as a result of being a globally established leading brand. Even before their brilliant recent form, the market will always favour United, or other historic clubs of that nature. But when looking at the difference in those two deals, how will Everton ever be able to compete with United on a regular basis without capital injection? They probably won't. Former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger said, if FFP is to have a chance, the sponsorship has to be at market price. It cannot be doubled, tripled or quadrupled, because that means it is better we don't do it and leave everybody free. In other words, if FFP is creating such blatant inequality, abolish it. We agree. Wenger is heralded as one of football's great minds. He read politics and economics and also studied medicine before eventually revolutionising elements of sports science and football tactics in the Premier League. He also very eloquently described attempts to bend the rules of FFP as financial doping. FFP has not prohibited owners from taking money out of their clubs, despite blocking owners that want to inject cash. Owners are allowed to put the club profits in their back pockets, but can't spend to improve their club. This might be a method whereby owners can improve their own personal finances, using the club as a vehicle to do so. Manchester United are an example of a major club that has suffered from an owner sucking money out of the club. Their owners, the Glazers, took on the club debt with its purchase, but have started to pay that off using austerity, by for example raising ticket prices for fans to help pay the debt and not putting a penny of their own money into the club. This is an issue that FFP could have tried to solve in the best interests of football fans, but apparently it didn't. And the so-called smaller clubs can no longer invest their way to a better market position. FFP has been widely criticised for what many have predicted to be an inevitable imbalance in competition, as was pointed out to the European Commission by DuPont for his client, football agent Daniel Striani. He said, UEFA prohibits the owner of a club to spend his own money in the club, at least to buy players, in order to make it grow and to challenge the established top dogs. UEFA has resisted certain opposition against FFP so far in the Belgian and French courts, as well as the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Yet after the initiation of FFP, the top 15 European clubs added €1.51 billion in sponsorship and commercial revenues in 6 years, from 2011 to 2017, compared to €453 million added by the other approximately 700 clubs in Europe. That's 148% of an increase for the big 15 clubs versus a 17% increase for the rest. Mental numbers. Those figures do not bode well for healthy competition, do they? Despite an evident impact from FFP, UEFA haven't single-handedly caused a gulf in the wealth of clubs. It may have been conceivable that the top European clubs would follow the American sports franchise model of focusing on maximizing all profitable areas of the business, which would consequently price regular fans out of the game. Higher ticket prices, more hospitality sales, higher merchandise costs, and a larger impetus on attaining bigger sponsorship deals have all increased revenue. This may have happened without FFP and left the smaller clubs behind, but FFP has exacerbated that issue, while simultaneously prohibiting others from competing with those big clubs by way of benefactor cash injection. 17 English clubs are in the top 20 in Europe when it comes to television revenue. The Premier League Big Six top the list, ahead of Barcelona in 7th. Real Madrid are also in the top 20, and the other non-English side is Juventus. National television deals create such disparity in clubs' income, and the Premier League cannot be blamed for generating so much money. Nor are UEFA responsible for English dominance in this market. However, it shows that there is never an even financial playing field for European clubs, even with FFP. Thus, restricting the ability of clubs to generate capital in other ways is actually discouraging competition and restricting financial growth. Therefore, FFP can easily be seen to be having a direct effect on the financial capacity of clubs to an extent that is immoral at best and illegal at worst. The average absolute increase per club in television revenue is €144.3 million in England and just €4.6 million in Holland. How can Dutch clubs be expected to compete with the English teams in Europe? FFP has not single-handedly created inequality in football, but it is significantly heightening it and not helping at all. The bottom line for us is that unless your team is one of Europe's elite money-making machines, then FFP is holding your club back, as it encourages the rest to keep running ahead. It's a real barrier for growth in small and medium clubs, and perhaps, even if you are a fan of one of the traditional elite, as a football fan, we imagine you don't want complete disparity in the game. Do you remember the last time a team outside of the top 5 leagues won the Champions League, for example? It hasn't happened for over a decade and a half. In the 70s, it happened 4 times. 3 times in the 80s and twice in the 90s. But now, we tend to see the same teams at the top every year. That's not what football fans want to see. To find out who the last winner from outside the Big 5 leagues was, join us in the next video, part 6 of 6 on financial fair play.